Well, it's finally here. After a long and very cold winter, spring has arrived. You know what that means. Cherry blossoms and leaves returning to the trees in the April edition of FBOMB, where we have a wonderful lineup of fiction writers for you tonight. Welcome to the FBOMB Global Flash Reading. I'm your host, Francine Witte in New York City, trapped in a fake bookstore. I like to think that listening to great writing has the same therapeutic effect as spring, that it's rejuvenating and just plain good for the soul. So please relax, settle in. You already have the best seat in the house, and enjoy. I like to start with a micro of my own, just to kind of um, break the ice, as it were. Okay. Um, so this is called Thin Mints. It's about Girl Scout cookies because it's Girl Scout cookie season. I think it actually just ended. Anyway, this is Thin Mints. Girl Scout at the door, a box of Thin Mints in her hand. She's maybe 12 or so, bangs and peachy lip gloss. The purse against her hip is like the one my mother wore, cobra skin and golden clasp. My mother died eraser-like, one day there, then gone. After the funeral, my father built a mountain out of my mother's things, her purses and shoes. The mountain was shaped like my mother and slept next to him at night. We owe you, right? Samoas, right? I dig into my pocket. Your father already paid me, the Girl Scout says. She points to the purse. He also gave me this. One night after my mother died, I knocked and knocked at my father's door. Something about a leaky pipe. When he didn't answer, I creaked open the door. My father on the bed in a whiskey sleep, his open hand on the purse. Your father home? The Girl Scout asks, holding out the box of Thin Mints. I brought him these. It's a good thing I didn't want the purse myself. Wouldn't take it if you paid me. When I was little, I thought the purse was magic. I had cut my finger and my mother said, hush, and pulled out a blue Band-Aid from the purse's belly. The scent of cherry cough drops and lilac, blending as she patched my tiny cut. When my mother died, I shook and shook the purse, emptied it upside down. Nothing but lint balls and loose change, not a scrap of magic. My father is standing behind me now. You said you'd like to try these, the Girl Scout says, offering my father the Thin Mints. Oh, thank you, he says, ripping open the box. This is good, he says. He holds up his hand. Wait here. You'd think we'd sell more Samoas, the Girl Scout is saying. Everyone says they like coconut, but I think they mean in their hand lotion. I tell her, we like the Samoas. Well, really, it was my mother, I say. My father comes back with a pair of my mother's shoes, taken right out of the mountain. I'm trying to clear out a few things, he says, offering the shoes to the Girl Scout. Maybe for your mama. She takes the purse off of her shoulder. Thanks, she says. My mom doesn't wear heels, and also she says I have to give this back. Too expensive. Later that night, much later, I creak open the door to my father's room. The mountain is gone, but everything is scattered all across the floor, almost like someone took the room and shook it and shook it. My father alone now on the bed, staring upwards, as if hoping something might fall from the sky. Okay. Okay. Um, Thank you. Okay, so let's get this party started. We have a great lineup tonight. And starting us off is Swetha Amit. She holds an MFA from the University of San Francisco and is a member of the Writers Grotto. She has authored a memoir and 3 chapbooks. Her stories have appeared in Bending Genres, Ghost Parachute, South Florida Poetry Journal, and others. She has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, Best Microfiction, and Best Small Fiction. Swetha Amit.
Thank you, Francine. It's always wonderful to be here amidst writers I really admire and look up to. Tonight, I'm going to be reading a piece that was published in Ghost Parachute in February. So, thank you, Brett. Really means a lot to have my story in Ghost Parachute. The story is called The Hairbrush. The hairbrush lay on the wooden floor beneath the dressing table in my dead mom's bedroom in my childhood home, which was up for sale in old Palo Alto. It was a fading shade of purple with a light crack on the handle. It still carried the faint scent of the coconut oil she would generously apply to her hair and mine, then brush it gently. It was our evening ritual where Mom and I talked about her childhood pranks, her comforting advice when I got my first period, my first unrequited love, the heartbreaks that followed, until that tragic moment when Dad slipped into a coma after the dreadful car accident on the highway. The hairbrush had been Mom's birthday gift from Dad on her 40th, wrapped in a pink gift paper with white hearts. I ran my fingers along the crack, carrying traces of a palpable grief the morning we learned Dad had departed to another world without saying goodbye. That was the time she confined herself to this room and shut the door on me. I watched her through the keyhole, her fingers laced between the hairbrush's prickly bristles, tears rolling down her blotched face, mascara smeared under her eyes. That was the time when Mom did nothing but stare at the mirror, brushing her hair vigorously. That was the time when Grandma came to live with us and tried to coax Mom out of a sickly state. That was when Mom first discovered blood stains on her toothbrush. That was when she became frail and weak. The glow on her face and personality faded. That was the time chunks of her lustrous black locks fell on the floor like the leaves withering away from the branches of the trees in our garden. That was the time when the hairbrush slipped from her wobbly hands and fell on the floor with a thud. While Mom recovered from those painful bouts of chemotherapy, the brush was no longer needed. It lay forgotten in a dusty corner while Mom wore a short bob wig until her hair grew out. It was never the same. Mom went about her chores and even took up a job at the neighborhood salon where she cut, oiled, washed, blow dried, and brushed other people's hair, but never ours again. I moved out to study medicine and visited home on holidays. I never dared ask her to comb my hair and had forgotten about the brush until today. I wonder why it was still there. Grief had a strange way of making people hold on to things, even when they had no use for them. There were still stray strands of her hair caught in the bristles. I could still picture her face in the mirror, now smeared with dust and cobwebs. The way her pink lips curved into a smile as she hummed a tune. The way she stared into the sunset sky, hues of pink and bruised purple swirling in her dreamy coffee brown eyes. I clutched the hairbrush, embedded with Mom's memories. My heart oscillated between ache and relief, knowing she passed away in her sleep. The silent echo of the brush against the scalp and the smell of coconut oil will soon fade like the purple color of the brush and the wavering shades of the sunset sky I could now see from the window. Thank you.
Ooh, beautiful, Shweta. Thank you so much. Swetha Amit, thank you for reading tonight. And please feel free to put anything you want to promote in the chat. Okay. Thank you for being here with us tonight at FBOMB. Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Brad Rose. He was born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Boston. He's the author of 8 collections of poetry and microfiction, or words to that effect. I wouldn't say that exactly. Lucky Animals. No, wait, I can explain. Pink X-rays, detonations, and no, wait, I can explain. Oh, I'm sorry. And Momentary Turbulence. Sorry. Brand is also the author of 7 poetry chapbooks, among them Democracy of Secrets and Evil Twin is always a good company. And funny you should ask, his website is bradrosepoetry.com. Brad Rose.
Thank you, Francine. I'm going to read 5 one-paragraph pieces. The first one is called Break Room. It's lovely office weather we're having, although it's so often underrated. If you're not careful, you can get caught up in it, but it's definitely better than duct tape. Have you noticed how faithful your coworkers are? Mine are like a well-made toupee. Whenever I fall off my high horse, they stick right with me. So these days I'm trying harder. Thanks to a rare psychological condition, my boss speaks to me telepathically. Telepathy is a lot faster than a phone call or an email, even if it's a little loud inside my head. I try to ignore the scare quotes and keep focused on the return on investment. Fortunately, I've got a round cubicle, and I'm getting better at blaming others for my mistakes. I sometimes find the facial recognition software makes it difficult to get away with murder, but like I said, I'm trying harder. I don't think anyone will notice the inanimate bodies propped up in the break room. By the way, how was your weekend? Hard rain. After strolling through the garden of blood-curdling screams, I inadvertently pushed the wrong button. Afterward, I had to burn my clothes. Of course, whatever you do these days is against the law. Nevertheless, I continue throwing people under the bus whenever I'm given a chance. A penny saved is a penny earned. Big Bill says I'm the life of every party, but the truth is, I'm just trying to maximize my fun efficiency, especially now that I'm on a budget. Hey, I don't know if you'll recall that time I stopped at Pompeii for that giant cookout. Yeah, that time Miss Vesuvius blew me a kiss, and I nearly impaled myself on a legal technicality. Everyone laughed so hard because they thought I was such a laughingstock. Fortunately, after a few minutes, the laughing stopped, just in time for the rain of fire. What is America? Justice pays, but not like in civics class. You've got to go through certain channels. Good headlines aren't a dime a dozen, you know, so I conduct casual business dressed in my business casual. Some people say that's almost diabolical. Of course, things are always a little weird in the funhouse, depending on your coordinates. Personally, I enjoy speed waiting on the lovelorn treadmill and skinny dipping in the deep fat fryer. Chubby Cupid tends to run a little behind schedule while you wait in the wind tunnel of love, but at least there's a breeze, and it's tax deductible to boot. Nobody can tell you exactly what America is. Big bang, little bang. Which reminds me, did you receive that box of guns I mailed to you? Well, I guess you can always use a shiv. Ministry of Love. You lose a lot of ideas to the top of your head, so I set fire to my burner phone and spent the rest of the week decoding the secondhand smoke. Talk about roadside attractions. Thanks to my mental muscle coordination, I've achieved an exuberant trance state. In fact, I slept 40 days and 40 nights just to catch up with myself. I'm not sure how long that is in elephant years, but now the clouds blink on and off, day and night. As always, the pressure's on to have mandatory fun, although lately there's been a gigantic amount of small talk. The competition has been brutal. Meanwhile, in the cellar of the Ministry of Love, executions continue on the hour, every hour. Into every life a little rain must fall. Don't worry, your session will begin shortly. And the last piece is called See for Yourself. Excuse me. I've had enough of all this endless sinking and swimming, so today I'm going to make some urgent lifestyle decisions. I'll show them who's boss. You've got to eat the piranhas before they eat you. Fortunately, blood is deeper than water, even when you look like a hot mess. You know, like an octopus in a china shop. In spite of the benefits, who wants to be the lowest common denominator in cephalopod arithmetic? Of course, it helps to occasionally make a smattering of false equivalences, especially when skinny dipping with your clothes on. But ultimately, there can be no preventing the dead from dreaming of the living. Sometimes good people must do bad things. So go ahead, take a chance. You never know. Things might go swimmingly. You just got to hold your breath, squeeze the trigger, and see for yourself. Thank you.
So, Brad, from now on, I don't have to email you, right? We can just telepathy. Okay. So now I know. It was wonderful as always. Like, you're so funny. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
Brad Rose. And Brad Rose is also going to be reading, we're having a special prose poetry edition of the Prose Garden a week from tomorrow. I'll be posting about it on Facebook, and Brad will be one of our prose poets. So it's in honor of April being National Poetry Month. So, you know. Hey, Brad Rose. Next, well, this is someone who used to come, I think, to the when Paul Beckman was doing the FBOMB, but she hasn't been here when I've been doing it, so it's kind of new experience, you know. And we had a lot of fun at AWP. It was really nice hanging out with you, Renuka. So please welcome Renuka. Renuka Raghavan is, I said that wrong, Raghavan, is the author of 3 prose and poetry collections. Her most recent is Nothing Resplendent Lives Here from Trevena Barva Press, 2022. Her previous work has appeared in Boston Literary Magazine, Bending Genres, the American Journal of Poetry, and Mom Egg Review, among many others. A Pushcart Prize nominee, she lives and writes in California. And if I please correct me however you say your name. Okay, I apologize. Renuka Raghavan. Renuka Raghavan.
Thanks, Francine. Hi, everyone. I have 2 micros for you tonight. Let's get right into it. Bathopelagic. I read about it at 2 a.m. because it had been a week since Mom stopped answering the phone, and I fell down an internet rabbit hole of restless searches where science hovers quietly beside the inexplicable. A rare humpback anglerfish swam to the surface from 2 miles deep. Scientists said it shouldn't have survived, that the pressure differential alone should have killed it. There was a photograph of the tiny beast, inconsequential and ancient-looking, propelling itself toward the surface. Its ridiculous lantern was limp and barely glowing. Its eyes, engineered for permanent darkness and confused by ordinary day, carried the deep up with it. I thought of Mom's eyes the last time I'd seen her only a month before, how she'd looked out the kitchen window without seeing anything, how she'd smiled at me from somewhere very far below, a smile that had traveled so far to reach the surface it had lost its original shape. I had driven the 4 hours, filled her refrigerator with things she didn't eat, and sat beside her, absorbed in the silence of someone who had long ago stopped expecting light. I never knew how to reach her, only how to be near her, which felt like nothing, but it had to be enough. The article said the anglerfish held at the surface for 3 hours, then turned itself toward the bright light and died. I called Mom then, even though it was 2 a.m. She answered on the first ring. I don't know which way is up anymore, she said, her voice careful and slow, like it had adapted to spending a long time in the dark. But I've been trying to come up. She stopped there. In the space where the sentence had been, I could hear her breathing. She's still here. She is still here, Some days, that is the only fact I need. I press the phone against my ear like a shell, listening for the ocean. And my second one, last one. Your party tit. Marlene had been angry for 11 years, which was how long she'd lived alone, and she wore it proudly like lipstick, applied fresh each morning, never leaving the house without it. The boy appeared in October, skateboarding right into her hydrangeas. He was 16 and luminous with catastrophe, the kind of beautiful that invites cruelty. Marlene stood on her porch and said nothing because that was her preferred language, and he looked up at her with eyes that had already survived something. Oh shit, I'm so sorry, he said, untangling himself from the crushed blooms. I'm Theo, by the way. He came back again. They always did when you didn't want them to. This was the great, exhausting treachery of the world, Marlene thought. He sat on her steps while she gardened, talking about his mother's boyfriend, about the geometry teacher who always called him theatrical, about boys at school who used words like weapons and knew exactly where to aim. Marlene pruned aggressively and did not respond, which he seemed to interpret as listening. She fed him soup once, not because it was cold, but because she had made too much. By December, he was there 3 afternoons a week. He painted her mailbox without asking. He bought her a cactus because he said it had her vibe. She placed it in the window and didn't examine why. She told him once stiffly about her husband, gone 11 years now. He didn't say, sorry for your loss, that hollow, liturgical nothing. Instead, he asked, what did he smell like? And Marlene stood there in her kitchen, devastated, remembering lemon, verbena, and newspaper, and wool. On Christmas morning, he left a package on her porch. She opened it alone, as she did everything. A throw pillow, embroidered with hydrangeas and uneven hand-stitched letters that read, calm your tit, just the one tit. Leave the other one crazy and out of control. That's your party tit. Marlene sat down on the cold floor. She laughed until she wept, or wept until she laughed. The seam between them, she discovered, was nearly the same as being loved. Thanks.
Wonderful, Renuka. That was great. So nice to have you back with the F-bomb, and hope you'll come back more. Hey, Renuka Raghavan. Thank you. All right, next we're going to hear from Pedro Ponce. Pedro Ponce is the author of The Devil and the Dairy Princess, winner of the Don Belton Fiction Prize and finalist for the 2021 Big Other Book Award for Fiction. His stories have been published in FBOMB magazine, Plowshares, Witness, and Copper Nickel, as well as the anthologies The Best Small Fictions 2019 and New Micro Exceptionally Short Fiction, which is the Norton anthology. So please welcome Pedro Ponce.
Thank you, Francine. Thanks, everyone. It's great to see everyone here. I'm going to read an excerpt from the story that was in FBOMB. The story is called The Shadow of the Monster. The monster is on television again. We sigh, shake our heads. Some of us pray, others curse. We stand, pace, or sit back in our chairs, slumping against upholstery. We nurse cocktails, chew bland chicken, read the crawl of letters detailing the latest rampage. We can recall the first time we heard the monster's roar, a distant rumble that seemed to approach from every direction. More vivid in our recollection are the days before the monster, when ocean currents betrayed nothing of talon or tail. Blinkered in the pallor of spreadsheets, we longed to be outside. We had yet to distrust the lap of waves on scalloped sand. We felt the slip of foam over bare feet, the damp rooting us on shore as the tide receded. We tasted hot dogs, chips, cherry soda. In the first days, we hardly noticed a difference. Alarms summon us as usual to squint bleary-eyed into bathroom mirrors. We comb and pluck reluctantly, as on any workday. Below us, swans navigate the reservoir unperturbed. The haze at our windows heralds the morning commute. News helicopters cut overhead to report the latest road conditions. We recognize their dark shapes trundling the pavement as we emerge from stoops and lobbies. The monster is green with skin like flayed stone. The monster is blue when viewed from street level, a towering silhouette obscuring half the sky. The monster is red when breathing fire, iridescent when breathing ice, its belly pale and reticulated like curdled milk. The monster is squat yet muscular. The monster is lithe and sinuous, snout to tail, the height of the city's tallest buildings. We assemble the monster from fragmentary glimpses rendered seamless in official reports. The monster is visible only in reconstruction, because when it first crept out at dawn from calm waters, or at night in the middle of a monsoon, or in the stark light of day as a distant blot between skyscrapers, no one thought to take pictures. Recordings of the most pristine fidelity have failed to capture the monster. Our most advanced sound equipment preserves only a feeble, tinny version of its roar, rendered as the grousing of house cats. Images waver from the resulting vibrations worsened by proximity. The more determined among us ignore posted warnings to burrow under barriers and enter the red zone. The resulting footage is no better, off-center and muddled, whether taken in retreat or recovered from charred remains. During an attack, the occupants of lower floors are instructed to proceed to the nearest underground shelter. The same pre-recorded instructions broadcast from discreetly mounted speakers exhort those caught on the street. On higher floors, we are told to stay in place. We are assured that these are the safest options under the given circumstances. Our marshals in retreat mention no other possibilities as they raise the whistles clipped to their reflective vests. The monster's primary weapon is its size. It dwarfs our most capacious avenues and national landmarks. A single step turns forests to clearings, cliffsides to muddy clods. Utility poles and pylons succumb to a single swipe of the tail. We have yet to discern a method or purpose to the monster's onslaughts. Debris and twisted girders are left scattered in the street. Water from ruptured pipes floods lower stories. At times, the monster banks rubble around itself, seeking to create a shelter or nest between buildings. The haphazard barrier impressively sound, despite its height. But as soon as it finishes walling off a street, the monster topples what it made to resume its path. An attack can occur at any hour, disrupting occasions great and small. We are roused to alert in waiting rooms, bank lobbies, hammocks swaying in the current of dreams. We have learned to eat our birthday cake quickly. In checkout lines, hands fumbling at wallet sleeves, our mouths fill with forgotten names, whispered audibly in grief, rage, lust. We dredge pockets for cigarettes and pills. We take our coffee black, the better to taste its burn on our tongues. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Pedro. That was just stunning. You have some nice comments, and all of you have nice comments in here. So be sure to look at the chat after you've read. And Pedro just put a link in the chat to the story, FBOMB magazine, The Shadow of the Monster. Great, thank you for doing that. Terrific. Thank you, Pedro Ponce. And thank you for being here with us tonight on FBOMB. And thank you too. We have a small group tonight, but small but mighty. The people who are not reading are amazing as well. We have Austin Alexis, Julia Strayer, Mary Jean Oldham, Zvi Sesling, Beth Sherman, Kalliopy Paleos. Did I get everybody that Snow's not reading? And my beautiful Aunt Miriam is here, who is 101. plus a couple of months. So she's here with us. Yeah. So welcome all of you. It's and we'll find out later if Jamie Ding won Jeopardy again for the millionth time. But we don't know that yet. Anyway, welcome everybody, and let's continue. It's wonderful readings. Thank you for being here tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Joanna Theiss. Joanna Theiss is a former lawyer living in Washington, D.C. Her fiction and poetry have appeared in the Penn Review, South Florida Poetry Journal, Pete Smoke Journal, Milk Candy Review, and Best Microfiction, among others. You can find links to her published works and her mosaic collages at joannatheiss.com. Joanna Theiss.
Thank you so much for having me, Francine. I love participating in this, and it's so fun to see my fellow pop-up prompter participants here tonight. It's a wonderful group, and in fact, the story I'm going to read from originated in one of Francine's pop-up prompt workshops, and I think it was. I don't have a good memory of this, but I feel like it was just about food. We were writing about food. So this is where that came from. So the piece was originally published in Argyle Lit magazine last year, and it's called Homemade. The onions burn because we can't control our heat. We scrape the charred bits off the cast iron and start over with a new pat of butter. I add a heap of arborio, and you pour in a cup of vegetable broth, worrying over the instructions in the cookbook. The mixture thickens. My rice, your broth, our onions. We pass the bottle of white wine back and forth, then splash some in the pan. I stir while you change the record. You stir while I grate the Parmesan. It is midnight when I hold the spoon up to your lips. More, you say. Feed me. My grandmother's box of old recipes is a distinctly American roux of old country goulash and Midwestern casseroles. We moan over the sweet crackle of meringue floating in creme anglaise and laugh at her ham and jello salad. You beg your aunt for her recipe for Mexican wedding cookies, but she won't reveal her secrets, so we find the instructions online. We dust the countertops with powdered sugar, and the kitchen fills with the you and me smell of almond flour. In a test kitchen downtown, we mimic the semi-famous chef as he places a teaspoon of filling on a wrapper. You dip your finger in warm water and press it tenderly against the folds. I release our dumpling into the oil. It hovers, then dances, then bounces against the metal sides. Pork, ginger, and garlic explode out of our neat casing and ruin the oil. We are told this is normal, that getting it right is a matter of faith. We let another dumpling fall. We believe this one will make it. It doesn't. We believe this one will make it. It doesn't. We learn how to have our family's recipes, how to freeze our mini leftovers. We make our own traditions. Huevos rancheros for hangovers, coca vin for snowed-in weekends, spicy Thai noodles with peanut sauce for health kicks, butternut squash soup for sickness, sourdough baguettes for any time. We buy a box like grandma's to hold our recipes. We intend to write them all down. Somewhere between the last risotto and the first bucket of fried chicken, routine muscles in. Mac and cheese Mondays, taco Tuesdays, fried Fridays. You prepare the tacos the same way every Tuesday, with jarred garlic, smoked paprika, and canned refried beans. If there is time, I make salsa, but there is hardly ever time. It seems like another age when our hands held the paring knives, the spatulas, when we so carelessly splashed white wine into a pan, when we researched recipes, the best pizza dough, the crispiest roasted potatoes, when even if the recipe was difficult, we were easy. We remember coca vin, but we eat KFC from the bucket while looking at our phones. Once we eat apart, you in a hotel restaurant, spaghetti pomodoro that tastes like the inside of a can, me in the inviting kitchen of a neighbor whose frittata is rubbery, over-peppered, and freckled with broccolini. In penance, we eat vegetable lasagna from the deep freeze. We grimace through chunks that did not thaw in the microwave. We are not hungry, but we are not full either. Until the Friday, I discover you ripping crisp Napa cabbage into bite-sized rhombuses while salty fresh halloumi grills in our pan. Kalamata olives beaded with juice rest in a wooden salad bowl, joining walnuts split in half, English cucumbers sliced into pennies. I watch you chop, mix, and add. I watch you pinch an anchovy out of a glass jar and settle it on top of the cabbage bed like it is a baby you are putting down for a nap. This is a dish we haven't made before, made with ingredients that we don't usually buy. This is an experiment of people who forgot the love of meal making, taking a shy step towards remaking home. Flip the halloumi, you say. It's beginning to burn. I grasp the spatula, bully it under the firm slab of cheese, and flip. Thank you.
Ooh, now I'm really hungry. That was great, Joanna.
Thanks.
I love routine muscles in. What a great phrase that is. But that was a delicious story. So, yeah, Joanna mentioned my prompt workshops. I do these prompt workshops. They're pop-up. So, whenever, whenever. So I do it from a mailing list. So if you are interested in more information about it, I think I'm in touch with all of you. So just send me an email, or if you want to be put on the mailing list. I usually have great writers, so I don't have to teach writing, you know. It's more of doing prompts, like write about food or, whatever. Anyway, so that's about my prompt workshop. Thank you for mentioning that, Joanna. I appreciate that. And that's Joanna Theiss. Great work. Okay, next we're going to hear from Brett Pribble, who many of us owe a thank you to. Brett Pribble is the director of the writing residency at the Kerouac House in Orlando, Florida. His work has appeared in such places as Gone Lawn, Maudlin House, Saw Palm, The Molotov Cocktail, Decomp, 5 on the 5th, Aquifer, the Florida Online Review. That's the Florida Review Online, sorry. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of Ghost Parachute Literary Magazine, which I think many of us have had the good fortune to be in. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's 2 paperback anthologies, which I believe one just came out, Brett. Is that correct?
Yeah, one just came out. And we debuted it at AWP in Baltimore. And just a
Great,
few days ago, we put it online. I
great,
think if you're out of country, it's going to take a few more weeks before it is available, but it's going to be available out of country soon too.
wonderful. Look forward to that. And feel free to put the link in the chat after you read if you want. And you can follow Brett on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, at Brett Pribble, just at Brett Pribble. Okay, let's take it away, Brett Pribble.
Okay, hey everybody. So I was thinking, I was gonna read a piece with fish in it, and then I was like, well, I have another piece with fish in it. I wonder if I could fit them both. One's a little over 700 words, and one's under 200, so
Yeah,
I think that
fine,
should work. So I'll
fine.
start with the longer one. This story was published last month in Gone Lawn. It's called Conversations with Goldfish. When Bobby Whalemore climbed the wooden steps to the treehouse and walked in with a goldfish, we all dropped our joints. He lifted the bag in the air. The goldfish swirled like a hurricane in its plastic pouch. "I've done it," he said. Dave rolled his eyes. "What now?" Bobby smiled with those big, dumb teeth of his. "I've communicated with him." Dave sighed. "With who, dipshit?" I grabbed Dave's arm. "Give him a chance." "Why? It's just gonna be more of his insane crap." I turned to Bobby. "Who did you communicate with?" Bobby blinked twice. "Baxter, my goldfish." David keeled over laughing. "Your goldfish?" I repeated. "Yes," Bobby said. "Using my grandpa's eye, I got Baxter to tell me the truth." He pulled out a glass eye out of his pocket. In those sweaty July afternoons, we got stoned to escape the heat. On this day, it was so scorching you could smell your hair burning. Unsupervised kids spilled out all over the subdivision with band-aids on their knees and gum on their shoes. We drank from hoses on the sides of our houses while Cheerios jostled in our pockets. Bobby was the neighborhood crazy, the weird little nerd no one listened to for more than 5 seconds. I didn't mind him as much as others. There was something honest about him, and I was sick of lies, especially from my parents. What does the goldfish tell you, Bobby? Seriously? David asked. Why are you talking with him? Shut up, man. I turned back to Bobby. What does it tell you? He wants to be free, he said. Like us, but in the ocean. Goldfish die in saltwater, moron, David chimed in. I stared at him like I was going to reach into his chest and rip apart his heart. No one was talking to you. I shifted over to Bobby. Where did you get that glass eye? It was Grandpa's. Mom keeps it in the drawer. But she's been asleep for 2 days, so I don't think she'd mind. I rubbed the blunt into a wooden panel for a moment to make sure I heard what I thought I did. 2 days? Is that normal? Depends on how much she drinks. Usually it's only one day. Let's go checking her, I said. David lit up. No way, man. I punched him in the arm. No one asked you to come. Whatever, he said, rubbing his bicep. Don't see why you spend time with that kid. Let's go, Bobby, I said. He nodded and I helped him climb down from the treehouse without dropping the fish. When we opened his front door, dead flowers lined the tiled floor. The smell that hit us as we opened his mom's door was way too strong to be flowers. Pills were scattered on the carpet, and a bottle of whiskey sat on a shelf next to the bed. I felt her hand. Ice cold. I felt for her pulse. No beats. Can I use your phone, Bobby? When I was sure he couldn't hear me, I called 911 and told them about the body. They said someone was on the way. I returned to Bobby, who clearly hadn't a clue. Your goldfish wants to be free, I asked. Yes, in the ocean. I think he might like the lake across the street. Bobby agreed, and we left the body in the bedroom. We kneeled by the lake. Are you sure Baxter will be okay in there? He asked. Not sure, but you said he wants to be free, right? Bobby nodded. An ambulance peeled down the road, its siren exploding like a noise bomb. The paramedics rushed in as kids from the street gathered on Bobby's lawn. Have you anything you want to say before you let him go? Yes. Bobby looked into the plastic bag. I didn't have you long, but you were mine, and I love you. That's good, Bobby. He released the fish into the water, and it disappeared into the murk. That's real good, Bobby. Now that you don't have your fish to talk to, you can talk to me anytime you want to. He smiled, and I hugged him. So that was that story. And now this one is a under 200 word micro called a little bit more upbeat than the last one. This one's called The Anglerfish Here's Dolly Parton. The foremost spine of the dorsal fin lurches from its head to seduce smaller fishes with something fleshy and luminous and wholly different from this deep sea devil bait. It drifts through the arcane, and the bottom of the ocean, giant squids clutch sunken ships, and the skeletons of mermaids are sprinkled on ancient stones. There is no light, only shadow pervades as this gilled grim reaper hunts its prey. A pelagic crustacean floats to its glowing decoy. The anglerfish giant fangs open, and in the distance, a melody pierces the darkness like an invisible light. Slowly, sublimely, words materialize. A woman begging another woman, Jolene, not to steal her man. The anglerfish closes in on its victim, but the plea to the woman with flaming locks of auburn hair holds its jaws from impaling the target. It swims in circles. Lyrics of love lost drift into the sack-like chambers of its long, muscular heart. The anglerfish allows its prey to escape. No longer hunting, it swims back into the gloom, searching for a mate. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brett Pribble. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Kalliopy said this is a master class, this reading, and that was just a good example. And I agree with her. You're all wonderful readers and very excited. Okay, thank you, Brett Pribble.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Next, we're going to hear from Gary Fincke. Gary Fincke's most recent book is After Orson, New and Selected Essays from Madville 2025. Two collections of fiction will be published in 2026, In the Light and Dark, flash fiction from Telekinesis Press in August, and The Comfort of Taboo, full-length stories from Braddock Avenue Books in October. And please welcome Gary Fincke.
Thanks, Francine. I'm going to read two stories from that flash collection that'll come out in August. In fact, I think the last time I was on here, I read the opening stories, but these are I just picked two random ones in a way that are structured a little bit differently than straight ahead narrative. This first one's called The Adoration of Borders. Once, Alex ate the same cereal for 9 months because each carton earned a square inch of Alaska. 18, all told. You earned them, his mother said when Alex was 31, handing him the deeds the summer before she died. The center of each deed was bordered broadly enough to downsize his claim to the exact limits of his property. Lately, at the farm that abuts where Alex lives, surveyors have arrived to arm a developer with the ammunition of deeds. They define dozens of half acres, measure a small number of what are now larger corner lots, remaking the fields with borders that instruct everyone, with signs not to breach, the last crop stubble, a carpet of knives. Alex's wife studies their border now, analyzing the suggestions offered by the height and thickness of hedgerows. She describes their future privacy, how they can be invaded only from overhead. She tells him that borders funded the invention of guns. She says each of our square yards is a bullet, each of our walls a bomb. Alex's friend insists that German deer, even now, do not cross the Iron Curtain. Decades of generations stopping where freedom for years began or ended. He describes how hunters crouch in blinds near the border where deer pause as if downwind from danger. Illuminated by November's moon, their breath is cauliflowered in the air. To win the local election, a candidate says the town should refuse other cultures. When he gives examples, the gods have exotic names. Their languages, he tells Alex, remind me of pilgrimages. Their food smells like difference. Imagine what resistance can do, the candidate says, how it will erase problems before they cross our borders. Trenches from his grandfather's war waited a century for Alex to visit. The guide said, annexed is a synonym for stolen, but history says only rented, and half of the tour group grumbled. Apart from his wife, Alex stood deep in the silent half, thinking how everyone was alone in their bodies, ones whose borders were easily breached. Alex's father, nearly 90, loves the slow drives through neighborhoods where the ghosts he knew still live. The houses, like his aging sisters, turn their best sides toward the car until his voice emerges from the hush of sweaters that swallow his thinning body. Back then, he begins, the tone no longer reedy, while Alex and the future hold their breath for a moment before returning to their work, sanding the love names from the elaborate woodwork of the past, yet leaving the borders intact. I'm developing my father's voice for sure. Uh, he did better at 90 than I'm doing, slightly younger than that. Um, the second story is a little more just straight ahead. And it's once upon a time, 50 years ago, exactly, as a matter of fact. I was a high school teacher in upstate New York. Does anybody from New York that knows about Regents exams and how you have to pass those in order? And students understood that they could fail my class every quarter, but if they got 65 on that Regents exam, they were gold. And one of those years when I was there, I worked with the class of students who were not Regents students, a whole different kind of experience that, in fact, was pretty rewarding. But I made a story out of this. It's called Crash Course. They need to pass the state's high school proficiency exam, the version made easy for students who think high school is a thing to quit like smoking. Their mothers are paying for his guidance. Their fathers are gone. 65 is what they need. The question's simple, and yet they score for practice 32, 46, and 51. Two boys and a girl who curses her score with the fuck this of dismissal just before she cries. July stifles where they sit among books for grades 7 through 12, a storage room that doubles as the teacher's school year office. Last week, in order, each of them told him how they sprawled upon blankets for fireworks that ended with a sizzling flag. One with her boyfriend, one with his girlfriend, one with his mother and 4 younger sisters. Yesterday morning, they studied vocabulary, benevolence, gracious, timid, shrill, repeating the words like the elderly being tested for memory. In the afternoon, they guessed the proper places for commas, the theme of a short passage that might be obedience, honesty, trust, or none of the above. Today, they tackle the personal essay, how it's judged by thesis and support, how its sentences are correctly complete. He shows them paragraphs that past judges have loved. Think of these samples as Siri, he says. Let them explain the best routes to full credit. At last, they come to the speech they dread. Eye contact, he tells them. Grown-up poise. When they drift, he says, be specific. Give examples from your daily lives. And all 3, at last, begin to talk. How to change oil, how to care for a rifle, how to make change for $20 or 10. Prevention, he says, providing the abstraction, maintenance, subtraction. They nod and agree. One boy smiles and says, like condoms, how they prevent and subtract as well. And all of them laugh, the room filling with the details of work and sex as each of them builds a thesis, preparing to pass. Thank you.
Yes, I remember the Regents well. I was an English teacher in New York City, and yeah,
They
the
published the
Regents.
results of your class in the local paper. There was some pressure.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Good times.
But I do have to say that when I was in 9th grade and suffering through algebra, somehow I got a 61 on the algebra regents, and all I needed was a 55 to pass. And this was back when you had handwritten report cards, and my teacher had actually written a 55 in for my grade and had to cross it off, and I was so happy. So yeah, that rule kind of worked for me. But yeah, it's frustrating because yeah, the kids know like, oh, we could just pass the regents, and oh well. Well, thank you.
Francine, I interrupt this wonderful program to tell you that Mr. Ding won again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I needed to know that. On Jeopardy, we're talking about Jamie Ding. It's just running away with it, and it's boring. But thank you, Sweet. Thank you, Gary. Thank very much. Those were wonderful. I wanted to say that we just have a few people who are not reading, and I wanted to break with tradition here and say if you wanted to read like a 300-word thing, okay, let's keep it really small. Austin, Julia, Zvi, Beth, and Kalliopy, you're more than welcome after the next two readers, okay? Give you a little time to get that together. Again, something very, very short, okay? Sort of like an impromptu open mic, if you will. Okay. Because we've been so good tonight, moved along so quickly, so smoothly that we do have some time. Okay. Our penultimate reader from the features is Andrea Marcusa. Andrea Marcusa's writings have appeared in Citron Review, Milk Candy Review, Ghost Parachute, Moon City Review, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smoke Long, Best Microfiction, Cleaver, Raleigh Review, and Southampton Review. She's a member of the faculty at the Writers Studio in New York City and is flash fiction editor at Cleaver Magazine. Andrea Marcusa.
Thank you, Francine. And Sandra is here also, right? So
yes.
She's okay. It is feeling very springy today, so I thought I would read a summer piece that I wrote a couple of years ago. It's called The Park Association's Boots and Petticoats Square Dance Party. A couple clasped their hands, then held them high and stepped onto the makeshift dance floor. He with a red bandana tied around his neck and ancient cowboy boots on his feet. She wore a frilly peasant blouse and a calico skirt, its white petticoat fluttering like a melody in the breeze. The fiddler's bow met strings, the callers spoke, the two bowed on cue with mastery. The world around them paused, and we patrons forgot our oaky merlots and craft beers as we watched the couple do-si-do with other dancers, the man's eyes blank as the gray floor beneath them, his face slack, empty. But he moved confidently, cradling the woman's shoulder with his arm, head high, body nimble, and led her in a promenade. The man danced like he'd been competing in competitions for decades, practiced sashaying in his sleep, wrote turkey in the straw himself. But his expression said the opposite, vacant, gone. The man sported a full head of white hair. The woman's sharp blue eyes took in the other guests' stares, the banjo players strumming, the strings of white lights twinkling above. Despite the woman's age and small frame, the regal way she held her head and her feet rat-tatted the floor told us she was a woman you wouldn't dare budge before in a grocery store line. So opposite the man with his empty stare, his slightly parted lips, a curl of saliva forming at the corner of his mouth. But he timed each move like a trapeze artist who knows when to hold on and when to let go. After the Allemande left and with other dancers, the man and woman came together and clasped hands like young lovers never wanting to part. When the time came to trade partners, The woman ignored the caller's direction and deftly waved the others away, keeping the man in her arms. We were all watching, the bartender polishing wine glasses, the woman in jeans and a cowboy hat who paused with her tray of ribs and beans and held it against her hip, the park ranger in his gray uniform whose face broke into a toothy smile, the woman who waited nearby for a porta potty. We are captivated by the sight of the couple as they glowed before us like ancient hematite under a setting sun. Then the woman paused, wiped the man's mouth with a tissue, and tenderly tucked a lock of hair behind his ear, with a touch of a woman who has just awoken in the arms of a new love, having stroked and kissed and tasted and surrendered far into the night. Next, she rested her lips on his, a kiss that told us that she'd loved this man for a lifetime, a kiss that said she'd lived through broken promises and trips to Walmart with him for motor oil, and opened her eyes after breast surgery to see his worry lift the moment she smiled, a kiss that told her she once arrived home after abandoning her stuck car in a blizzard, and he'd rubbed her frozen hands and feet until they revived, a kiss that said she sometimes hurled a hairbrush at him for words she can no longer remember, and stood with a "you can" sign and cheered for him at the 25th mile of his first marathon, and inhaled the perfume of bouquets of roses that occasionally arrived for him for no reason, as if they were her first. Despite whatever may come, whether a dank facility with other absent beings or a wheelchair because his legs had forgotten how to move, she had once lain in his arms, their hearts beating in unison, knowing she would jump before a speeding truck rather than endure the agony of watching him die. Transfixed, we prayed that we'd be among the fortunate ones and never grow lost like this man who kept asking his wife between sets, "Where are we? Why are we here?" In our next breath, we privately hoped, if it happened to us, that we would be loved just as tenderly and selflessly as this man, adored even if we grew obstinate and when parts of us were dead. If this was our destiny, how we wanted to be this man, stooped shoulders, fading mind, a slight smile as he swung his partner, his red bandana waving like a flag.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Andrea Marcusa, thank you for being here with us tonight. We have one more reader from the features. And then is there anybody who wants to read one tiny little piece in the open mic? Just raise your hand if you want to. Austin, and anybody else? And Kalliopy? You don't even have to go on camera, Kalliopy. And Beth? And Svi? And I think Julia. Julia, no? Well, if you change your mind, you can still jump in. Okay, so we hear from Sandra. Sandra, so this is funny because Andrea lives a mile from me. Okay, we literally live almost on the same street. And Sandra is in New Zealand. I think it's wild. You know, this is the beauty of Zoom. So Sandra Arnold is a New Zealand writer. That's where she is. With 8 published books, her work has received nominations for the Best Small Fictions, Best Microfictions, and the Pushcart Prize. She has a PhD in creative writing from Central Queensland University, Australia. With poet David Howard, she co-founded the Takahi Literary Journal and was its fiction editor from 1989 to 1995. All the way from New Zealand, Sandra Arnold.
Thank you, Francine. Yes, sorry about the length of time it took me to connect this morning.
Yes, it's tomorrow morning there.
No, there were I had some computer issues.
Yeah.
So I went into my husband's study and got on his computer, got it all sorted out, then dashed back to my computer. Now it seems to be working okay. So I'm glad to be able to be here because their stories were fantastic. I love them. Okay. I've got one story and it's called The Last Lost List. This will be published next year, not next year, next month, I think, in the UK. The Last Lost List. The idea of writing a list began to take shape after Amy saw her reflection in the cheese cabinet at the supermarket. In the same moment, she heard a little girl say, "Mummy, is that lady a witch?" The mother of the girl hissed, "Shush," and hurried her away. Staring at her reflection in the glass, Amy thought she understood what the child meant. After she'd written her list, she decided to action the first item, which was to go and visit her brother Martin. As soon as he opened his front door, Amy told him she wanted him to take her to the house where they lived as children. He raised his eyebrows, but didn't comment. They drove in silence to their old neighborhood, through streets of rundown houses. Martin parked in front of their childhood home, and together they walked up the cracked concrete drive, through a weed-covered garden, and knocked on the peeling front door. The elderly woman who opened the door widened her eyes at their request, but let them in. In the bedroom where her parents had slept, Amy looked at the place where her mother's pride and joy, an Italian walnut wardrobe, used to stand. In her head, she could still see the scowling faces in the polished wood and the clawed hands reaching out from what looked like a tangle of trees. Downstairs again in the fusty sitting room, Amy sat cross-legged on the floor. In the space the old brown leather sofa had once occupied. Martin looked away, remembering that every day after dinner, their father had stretched out on that sofa, fallen asleep, and snored and farted until midnight. He remembered Amy telling their father that he would be happy when he died, as he'd never need to wake up again. She'd thought she was making a joke and waited for him to laugh. Instead, she was on the receiving end of a furious punch to her face. Now, sitting on the floor 6 decades later, she held her hand to her face. Martin saw the gesture and bit his lip to hold back the tears. He remembered his mother ushering him from the room, so he couldn't witness what happened next. Later that day, he'd heard his mother admonish Amy for provoking her father. "Why don't you use your common sense and just copy what I do?" she complained. "Don't react. Then he'll calm down." The old woman waved goodbye at her front door and watched as they climbed into the car. They drove in silence past the shabby houses and forlorn gardens, and Martin asked Amy if she had any happy memories at all from her childhood. She was silent for a few moments, then told him her favorite time had been playing with her best friend Laura in the wood opposite Laura's house. "We always climbed up into the highest branch of a tree," and invented stories about fairies, princesses, and dragons. She laughed. Until the day we were up in the tree and a man came along the path and asked us where Laidlaw Hall was. I gave him directions through the woodland, and he thanked me and turned to go. Laura said she thought he was creepy. I told her not to be so stupid. She glared at me, jumped out of the tree, and took off, leaving me there. Then, Martin asked. Then I saw him peering at me from behind a tree. I climbed down and started to walk away. The man called out, and when I turned around, he held out a bag of sweets. I shook my head and walked faster. He followed me, and when I heard his footsteps close behind, I picked up a large stone, turned towards him, and threw it. Martin drew a deep breath. I heard Mum telling Dad she'd read something in the local paper about the body of a man found under a tree in the wood. I pretended not to listen when Mum lowered her voice and read out the bit about the empty hole where the man's eye had been. When you came home from school, the first thing she said to you was that you were not allowed to go near that wood ever again, but she wouldn't tell you why. But you knew, didn't you? Amy said, staring at him. The police investigated the case, Martin replied, but they never found. He reached over and squeezed her hand again. Anyway, I believe in leaving the past where it belongs, and so should you. I promise to do that after we've seen the second item on my list, Amy said. Let's go to the woodland now and get it over with. Martin drove to the woodland and parked outside what had been Laura's childhood home. Amy got out of the car and stood in front of the house, remembering the hours she used to spend there with Laura. Both of them writing stories and playing dress-ups. Laura's parents sold the house and moved out of the district after the man was found, and photographs of the woodland were blasted all over the newspapers, she said. I never saw her again. She walked around the corner, steeling herself to head through the woods, and maybe even try to climb the tree again. Their favorite tree. She grimaced at the thought. Oh, well, if climbing a tree proved too difficult, she could simply stand under the tree and remember happier times. She lifted her head and looked across the road. But instead of the woodland that had been firmly stamped on her memory for 60 years, she was looking at a sprawling new housing estate. All the trees had gone. The woodland no longer existed. Her breath caught in her throat. Martin came up behind her. I could have told you, but I thought you needed to see for yourself. He wrapped his arms around her. Back in the car, Martin put the key in the ignition. So, can we leave the past behind now? Amy pulled the list from her bag, stared at it, then crumpled it into a ball. She looked at her brother and nodded. Martin turned the key. Thank you.
Oh, that was riveting. Seriously riveting. Beautiful, Sandra. As always, I mean, I would listen to you no matter what you said, because you had me at, I dashed into my husband's study and got sorted out. Okay. To someone who grew up in New York, that's magic. Wonderful to have you. And thank you for trying so hard to get in. These things happen sometimes. Zoom is like that sometimes, but thank you for persevering. And it was great to have you, Sandra Arnold.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have a very short open mic because we have a little time. And also because we have such good readers that, it's a good thing. So the order is Austin, Kalliopy, Beth, and Zvi. We're going to go A to Zvi. Haha. Okay. That's a bad joke. All right. Anyway, Austin, you ready? Austin, Alexis?
Hi, Francine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The only story I had on hand is 394 words. Is that too long?
Just read it quickly.
Okay.
No, I meant, no, it's not too long. Read it quickly now.
And I might have read a different version of this short story 3 years ago at FBOMB. I'm not sure. And I've written some poems about the same material. Clean. Is it worth the risk? You want to feel spotless, yet a tub of water for an epileptic is a booby trap, an earthquake. Alone in your sublet, no fear or ignoring the fear. You strip and head for the bathtub. You climb in. One epileptic seizure and your skull could crack open on the tub's metal sides. One freaking seizure and you might drown in even an inch of water. You would have no control over your limbs. The phone rings. You frown. That sound a distraction you resent but almost want. When you answer, a telemarketer's voice irritates you like the beep of a garbage truck idling at a curb. No, I don't want tickets to rate TV commercials, you shout into the phone. But they're free, a voice chants back at you. Look, I'm in the middle of grooming myself, you say, then click off. You return to the narrow bathroom. You are drawn to the tub. You were always a risk taker. Sometimes you took your epilepsy medication and sometimes you didn't. Sometimes you heeded your doctor's advice to get enough sleep to ward off seizures, and sometimes you stayed up all night listening to Joan Baez on YouTube before writing your own songs and an all-night composing binge. You turn on the water, watch the liquid trickle into the tub. After only a few seconds, you turn the water off with a speedy twist of your sweaty wrist. Slower movement would lead to hesitation. About 1.5 inches of water floats in the bathtub, just enough to get the July heat wave grime off your calves and out of your armpits. You step into the off-white vat, lower yourself into a sitting position. Feels good, you say aloud. Leisurely, you scrub your stomach and elbows with cucumber soap, so green and soothing. The scent intoxicates you. Your long legs nearly sigh with relief. 10 minutes into your bath time, you fall into a seizure. For a second, before you crash your head down into the water, the woman who subletted the apartment to you flashes through your mind. A quick, sharp memory. She has been acquainted with you for 3 years, knows you're an epileptic, yet she encouraged you to rent this pad from her with its deep, steep tub. She's a dirty money grabber. You babble in your head. This is her fault, you think, as you drown. Thank you.
Whoa, good story, Austin. Thank you for reading that, Austin Alexis. Okay, next, Kalliopy. Paleos.
Hi, I'm here. I'm really sorry about the camera thing. I'm having an evening, but I'm really excited to be here. This is 200 words.
Great.
So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you so much, Francine, for the invitation. Can't resist. Can't resist. This came out in the Phrastic Review, and it's called Ruby and Lily. Oh, sweet Lily, Mama named us after beautiful things. Mama even had a diamond ring, too. Lily wants that ring, but I say it's mine. Yesterday, I hid it in the china closet. Nobody else around here got a china closet or a house as fine. I was with her when she found it, close by, just like a draft from a window. She even shivered. That time she found it by the sink, I let her keep it a few days. And wasn't she charming, holding her hand up to see it shimmer, smoothing the wallpaper, singing, I see you, pretty flowers. I see you, pretty birds. I sang too, but she thought it was the train rushing by on the other side of Saunders's field. Next time I'll put that ring under the sofa. She likes finding it there, down on all fours, yelping like sweet old Brandy used to. Daddy got that ring off a lady's hand he almost tread on over in Berlin. Something soft under my boot, he'd say. So as I looked down, and it was just winking up at me. So now it's your mama's, and you girls just gonna have to fight for it when we're gone. Thanks for listening.
Wonderful, Kalliopy. It's great, great story. And thank you for reading for us. Okay, Kalliopy, Paleos. Next, Beth, are you ready? Beth Sherman.
Yeah, hi,
Hi,
everyone.
Beth. Hi.
Oh, okay. So this is,
You're on.
I don't know what I'm waiting for. This is 300 words. It's going to be, it's one of the stories in my novella in Flash, which is going to be published by Ad Hoc in July. It's called The Bluest Feather. When my mother turned Jay, she screeched from the treetops, waking the neighbors, scaring the toddler next door. Her voice a rusty pump, her body blue as sapphire, as an energy drink, as the earth viewed from a distant star. Her crest a black necklace, her eyes flat stones at the bottom of a river. She's become aggressive, become a thief, pilfering the nests of smaller birds, stealing their eggs, scratching shells open. Become a bully, pushing me backward with vein-riddled claws. She doesn't apologize, can't remember she's done it. She says she's pathetic. She says she's too old. She screams and whistles, craving attention. Her raucous calls a warning. She won't stop talking. A chatterer, a liar. She thinks her diagnosis is the stuff of fairy tales. She tells the doctor to fuck himself. Tells me to mind my business. Tells the checkout girl at ShopRite she's been kidnapped, been poisoned, been on The Price is Right. In the grass, she digs for ants, scooping them into her beak, barely pausing to breathe before stuffing the next one in. Mid-air, she flies slowly, the wind a ribbon. She's too noisy, too bold. She likes shiny things. To get her attention, I wave a strip of aluminum foil. I coax, I implore. When I'm tired, I play along. At night, she shrieks, and I shudder awake. Fix us a pot of herbal tea, which fixes nothing. She buries her seeds where I can't find them. Thank you. It was a treat to read.
Oh, thank you, Beth. And it was a treat to hear you. And it's a wonderful novella in Flash. And congratulations to you. And thank you for reading for us, Beth Sherman. And next, and maybe last, unless Julia changes her mind. No pressure, but I love your writing, Julia. Zvi A. Sesling. Take it away, Zvi.
Hey, thank you very much. And, I want to tell you my chat isn't working. And I just want to say everybody's readings tonight were just wonderful. I really enjoyed them. Anyway, my story is called Museum of Ugly People. The call came on December 30th. It was during dinner. I was in the middle of a steak. The call was from TV reporter Camilla Davis, who specializes in quirky stories. You know, the kind that features a woman having dinner with a monkey or a man who trains dogs to carry bags of groceries for invalid people. Her call was a surprise because I never thought a reporter would be interested in my curation of a museum. But of course, the museum I curate, the Museum of Ugly People, and Camilla Davis wanted to feature it on her Channel 9 segment, Would You Believe? It did not take much for her to convince me to allow her and her camera crew to film her 3-minute piece that actually took about 20 minutes to do. The TV station reporter came to my office and asked if I'm really the curator of the Museum of Ugly People. That I am, I told her. The Dorian Grays of the world are a rotating exhibit of politicians, liars, cheaters, murderers, drug addicts, dictators, drunk, abusers, shrews, and even some neighbors and friends. They grow uglier each day with each sin, no remorse, no hope for redemption, no beauty in the mirror, no steak on the plate, just a continuing stream of foul deeds, foul words, a stench rising like the poor, the dead, broken fossils to be forgotten. Why this, the reporter asked? Well, people are tired of beauty. How many times can you look at Marilyn Monroe's lips or even the Mona Lisa? Some people go to the Louvre every day to see the Mona Lisa, Camilla Davis said with certain seriousness. All fools, I say. These portraits are far more interesting. I mean, look at Al Capone or Joseph Stalin over there, Mao Zedong, Bonnie and Clyde. People stand in front of those portraits for hours. She stood staring at the portraits, so I added, it teaches people that these foul people are not the heroes portrayed on TVs or the movies. I mean, look at Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They aren't exactly Paul Newman and Robert Redford, are they? And she says, well, no, I guess not. That's the point. These are not folk heroes. They are bad, and I hope you report it like that. Yeah, well, I guess I'll write up your point of view. That's all I can ask for, I said. Before the reporter left, she took a picture of me standing in front of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I hope it makes me look good. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Spee. That was really wonderful. You have some nice comments in the chat there. Thank you for reading. Spee A. Sesling. And Julia? No? Yes? No? No? Okay. All right. I can only ask. So, okay, that brings us to the close of another FBOMB. I was like just so happy with tonight's readings. I'm going to be putting them online on YouTube where other people, they'll live again, they'll get a second life, and other people can see them and enjoy your wonderful readings. So again, thank you to Swetha Amit, Brad Rose, Renuka Raghavan, Pedro Ponce, Joanna Theiss, Pribble, Gary Fincke, Andrea Marcusa, Sandra Arnold, and our bonus readers, Austin, Alexis, Kalliopy, Paleos, Beth, Sherman, and Sesling. And I'm Francine Witte from New York City. And thank you for coming to FBOMB tonight. And drive safely. Good night.
Good night. Thanks.